Now, I was a seed struggler for so long until I found. Are we live? We are live. Hey, flower friends. It is your friend in flowers, Lisa Mason Ziegler. And how gorgeous is this? This is a 2-week-old zinnia. And can you see those roots? How amazing is this? This is the small soil block. And you know, if this had been grown in a container, 2 weeks now, it would have been in a container and its roots would have been completely wrapped. This is one of many of the qualities of soil blocks that I absolutely adore. Hey friends, it is your friend in flowers, Lisa Mason Ziegler. And if we've never met, I'm the owner of the Gardener's Workshop. And I was, a professional flower farmer for over 25 years. And now I am on a mission to help teach others how to grow beautiful cut flowers using the same tools, seeds, and supplies that we use here on my farm, and that I have just found that really helped me be successful. So let me tell you what we are going to be doing. Let me actually put these back here. In the show today, I'm going to be running through what I'm calling a crash course on soil blocking, and that's going to be about what it is and why I love it so much. I'll be demonstrating how to make soil blocks, because I am a user of the small blocker. This is the cluster of 3/4 inches, and we'll talk about why I perfected my method with that blocker. And I'm going to talk about sowing seeds in the blocks, and I'm going to show you how I sow tiny seeds and also zinnias we're going to actually do. And then at the end of our little program tonight, I'll have a Q&A. So if you'd like to submit a question, and I'm going to answer a couple of them, if you'd like to submit one to be considered, just in the comments write @Lisa, and whatever your comment is, and Susie and Jesse will gather those up, and I will try to tackle some of those at the end of our show here. So friends, we do a show. This is the first time we have done a Wednesday evening 8 o'clock show, and I'm super excited about it actually. We've been doing a show at 12 noon on Fridays for a couple of years now. Hugely successful. We have so many new customers every single week, and viewers and followers that join us, and we know it's because you guys share and tell a friend, and I just invite you to do that, and I thank you so much for doing that. And there's a share button down at the bottom of your screen. You can let your friends know that you're over here at a live gardening show, and invite them to come over and join us. So let me tell you just a little bit about how this show works, right? This is the first time we've come on at night, so maybe you've never even known about this shop. So let's just do some little bit of housekeeping. First off, if you have an account here in our phone app, or you sign up tonight and make yourself an account, please double check your email address for typos as well as your phone number. It's a frequent flyer here for us, right? And we can't ship you anything until we have that corrected. Now, here's some of the fun stuff about over here on our app. And so just so you know, we have a big website store, a big educational platform that hosts our big website where you can shop, store. But this little app is totally separate from that. So things work just a little bit different. So first off, for seed packet only orders, the shipping is on us, y'all. It is free shipping when you order just seed packets from us. And also there's a cap on product shipping of $9.95, and oftentimes we'll have some products here that in fact has additional shipping that should be charged to it because it actually costs more to ship it, right? But here in the app, the cap is at $9.95, and we ship to all 50 of the United States. Now, if you're joining us from social media, I am so glad that you happened upon us, but what you need to know is that we have a phone app. And in the app, it's just a very different experience. First off, the app is free. It'll take you seconds to jump over to your phone's app store, search Gardener's Workshop, and download our shop app. We actually have 2 apps, but it's the shop app that you'll be in, because when you're in the app, you can do things like build a favorites list. You can watch replays of previous shows. But more importantly, one of the funnest things that customers and friends really love the most is interacting with the other live viewers in the comments, and you have to be in the app to be able to do that. So I invite you to do that, and thank you so much. If you're already using the app, we appreciate it if you would drop us a review over there to let other people know that you are enjoying it and how it works for you. Now, frequently during a live show, we sometimes sell out of products. And sometimes the team, if they're able, are bringing more stock over from our big website store to the app. So I would recommend if you go to a product and it says out of stock, get notified. Get notified. That simply means that we'll give you a little ding if they happen to be able to restock that. And then lastly, friends, if you are one of my club members or an owner of any of our online courses, we love it when you, who are our family, we consider you family when you're part of that group, when you post the sunflower emoji. You know, that's what part of our company logo is. And it just makes my heart swoon when we see that people just give a shout out that they're a part of us. So I promised that this was going to be a crash course, right, on soil blocking. So what in the world is soil blocking? And so it's a method for starting seeds indoors, and the block, in fact, is the actual container. You're not using black plastic pots or cell trays and stuff like that. And what drew me to it 27 years ago is I have no greenhouses, y'all. I've never been able to have greenhouses or hoop houses. I'm a city flower farmer. I cannot have that space. I can't have those structures. So I had to find a really space-savvy method. And that's what soil blocking just really drew me in the first time I learned about it. And it's also economical because once you have the tool, all you add each year is soil and seeds, which you'd have to add in any method, right? And the thing about growing in little blocks of soil as the container is those roots get so much more oxygen than they would if they were actually enclosed in a container. They just simply grow faster. And as a general rule, we shave 1/3 of the recommended growing time off of our seedlings, meaning if a seed packet says, start 6 to 8 weeks before you want to plant it, we would probably start that 4 to 6 weeks before we wanted to actually plant it. So that means less time indoors and just overall a better experience all the way around. And as you've seen, and you'll see more of these up close, it just really produces some really gorgeous plants. These are eucalyptus for anybody that has ever grown eucalyptus, which is quite a feat. Eucalyptus is a really slow grower, so it's a really tough one. So they just really grow absolutely gorgeous transplants. So now I am going to demo a couple of things for you here. So one of the things I highly recommend is somebody that's, when we were in high production for over a decade, we were starting over 100,000 seedlings a year here on my small flower farm because we succession plant. And what that means is that I've started a lot of seeds and I've killed a lot of plants and I've had a lot of failures, y'all. That's what happens when you do things over and over again in your profession. And that's what just has really allowed us to zero in on what is really successful. And one thing that I am a big believer in is to sift seed starting mix. I don't care what seed starting mix or blocking mix or ingredients you're using. When you think about starting seeds in a little teeny block or even in a small cell, you don't want any chunks of stuff. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I am gonna show you how we actually sift our blocking mix. Now, blocking mix is a little bit different than seed starting mix. So think about this. So when you are putting seed starting mix in a container, let's just say in a cell or even in a peat pot or something like that, you want the mix to be really light and fluffy because you want air and water to freely flow through that container, right? Well, it's the complete opposite for a soil block because there is no container. The block is the container, and for it to bind and hold together and then to support a healthy root system and retain moisture, you want a really dense mix. Now, we have a DIY recipe for a blocking mix, which is always on our website and available, and we sell the ready-made mix. And it doesn't matter if you're DIYing it at home. All of your ingredients, compost, cocoa coir, and peat moss, any of those that you use should all be sifted before you use them in a seed starting mix. So this is our sifter, and I'm going to sift some for you. This is what it looks like. This sifter fits perfectly on a 5-gallon bucket, and that's what I have here. And so I am going to sift some of our ready-made mix, and there's going to be chunks, y'all. We do not use sterile soil here. We use typically compost-based soil, and a piece of compost, a part of compost is there's chunks, and that is perfectly okay. You just don't want it in your seed starting mix. So I have my sifter filled up with some of our ready-made mix, and I'm just going to sift it as we talk, and you can see how simple and easy it is. These chunks that you're going to find in your mix, and sometimes there's even little rocks, you can throw them out into your garden. They are valuable pieces of material, just not in your seed starting mix. You can use them in containers, and I'm going to show you what the end product is here. So I have gotten, there's some sticks and rocks, and I'm making a mess as always, y'all. All right, so some of the things like you would find which is normal to find, are sticks like this. This is part of a compost-based type of mix. So we recommend sifting, and what you actually get is a really beautiful mix that is super easy for your seeds to get footed in and to really start and grow. All right, so we're going to move this out of the way. So any blocking mix that you use, we recommend sifting, or the ingredients. That's why I wanted to show you that first. And so what we have here tonight is we have the #1 customer favorite product, and that is our Soil Block Maker Kit. So I'm going to show you that, but now that I've dumped soil in here, Susie, let me add a little bit more water. So one of the things, let me turn this so you guys can see what I'm doing here. One of the things that's really different about blocking mix that sometimes throws people off is how wet it has to be. Think about having to push that soil out of the tool, that's what I'm getting ready to use here. And so we give you the ratio, which is 3 parts blocking mix to 1 part water. And you can add a little bit more or a little bit less depending on the moisture content of your soil. But you can see it is pretty moist, right? It's a little bit wetter than kind of soggy oatmeal. And yes, friends, this is a potato masher. I have found this, it works like a hoe, y'all. It is the best tool for mixing the water into the soil. Now, this is the blocker, and this is actually one of the ones we use here on our farm. This is the small blocker. It's the 3/4 inch block, and I use this size block 95% of the time. First off, we're going to talk a little bit about different seeds you can put in here, but for me, as a small space grower that uses a 10 by 10 grow room, I'm always looking to get the most out of my seed starting real estate, and this little block does it. So this is a 2-handed job. I hold on to the stationary bar, and I just push it down into a pile of mix a couple of times, because you want the chambers to not be packed, but you want them nice and full, because think about they have to last and hold up through the time that you're growing the seedling up. So we use flat bottom trays with no drainage holes. And what this allows is for you to be able to do it indoors. You know, for me, I'm in a building. I used to do this in my kitchen and my pantry. I couldn't have water running everywhere, and that's why we really perfected this system. So you lay the blocker on it and you just give it a push and a pull. And friends, we just made 20 containers. How about it? So let me just make a couple more. So the Soil Block Maker kit, which I'll show you the rest of the products, has everything you need to actually start soil blocking. It has the tool, it has a bag of the blocking mix, it has this tray, it has 5 of these are foam reusable trays, y'all, and it's gonna hold 3 sets of 20. So that means 60 plants will be able to grow on this. And we're gonna look at some plants here in a minute, because I think a lot of folks think, oh my gosh, that block is so small. How in the world, you must pot it up or bump it up or something. We do not. Friends, the secret is, let me do this first. The real secret is to start your seeds at the proper time so they're not ready weeks before they have to be planted. So here we go. I am just giving a push and a pull, and literally you just made 60 containers ready to receive your seeds. So I'm gonna sow some different seeds here. But first, I'm just gonna show you a little bit more of this kit. So here's a clean blocker, y'all, so you can see it. These are actually made in England. We import these from the family that actually manufactures them. And so this is what we call the small blocker. This kit also comes with, let me just turn this up just a little bit here. It comes with 3 packs of seeds, your choice, either cool season hardy annuals or warm season tender annuals, which this is what we're starting right now. These are the #1 seeds that we sell, as well as the ones that we grow here on our flower farm, right? The same seeds. These are the giant zinnias, coxcomb, and the basil mix. The kit also includes my seed starting made easy course. This course is about 110 minutes long, I think. It's broken up into a lot of little segments, but this will take you from beginning to end to soil block indoors, and then to actually harden off and get your plants planted out in the garden. It also has a session on planting seeds directly out in the garden, as well as planting larger seeds, sunflowers, and plug trays, as well as how to use the commercial soil blocker, the Swift blocker. So that's included with the kit, and the kit comes with these 5 trays. There's 5 of these trays that hold 3 sets of 20. It has this, the aluminum seed pan, which you're gonna see that in action in just a moment. The toothpicks, which you'll also see that in action, as well as these little plant tags. And friends, I don't really use those to tag. These are the tools that I use to handle soil blocks. You should never really handle fresh soil blocks that don't have a lot of roots in them, and that just makes it super easy. And this kit comes with a bag of the ready-made mix. So this bag doesn't look so big, does it? But guess what? This will make over 600 of those little small blocks. Soil blocks are so dense and compact that all of your resources go a long way, the space as well as the soil. So you get this, plus the blocker, and I'm gonna try to show you all this stuff at once, y'all. And the blocker, and the mix, and it's $89.95 with $9.95 shipping cap, and that is enough for you to make and start up to 600 soil blocks and seeds, right? So that is like the backbone of how to soil block. So, you know, let's sow some seeds together. And remember, if you have questions, put them in the comments. Just put @Lisa and type in your question, and we'll collect all those to answer them at the end. So I thought, while you would never, you know, we don't ever mix seeds on one tray. meaning I would never plant a tomato here and peppers here and a zinnia down here. Typically do the same on one tray because they can sprout at different speeds, and if these sprout but these aren't, you want to move these to light, but these need to stay on heat. See the problem? But for our demonstration purposes here this evening, I am going to show you, I'm going to do some tiny ones, and then I'm going to do some zinnias all in this demonstration. All right, so actually I want to pull that just a little bit closer. So the reason we use this little aluminum seed pan is because it has no static electricity. If you have ever tried to sow seeds from like a little butter dish, you know, those little soft butter dishes that are kind of shallow and you dump your seeds in, and then you just can't seem to get them out of the tray, well, friends, that's because of static electricity. When you put a little saliva on the end of a toothpick and you just touch it to a seed without static, it literally, can you see the little seed on the end there? Literally, the seed hops right on. Now, whether or not how deeply you place the seed in the block or whatever you're starting in, it should be based on the instructions from the seed packet. It should say sow on the surface, or it needs light to germinate. That means you just firmly place it on the surface. If it says needs darkness or cover with 1/4 inch of soil, that means it needs darkness to sprout. So this is celosia, which we grow gobs of celosia. And I'm just firmly seeding a seed on the surface of each block.
So they can swipe comments left or right.
Okay. Oh, so sorry, y'all. Yeah, I'll keep doing this. You can swipe the comments left or right to get them out of the way. Let's see if I can make this just a little bit higher. How's that? Maybe that's a little bit better. So I have seeds rolling around in this little pan, and I am just firmly seeding a seed on the surface because celosia, they describe it as needs light to germinate, but you know what I have figured out after all of these years? Light may have a little something to do with it, but it's actually the oxygen that they receive on the surface which seems to make all the difference in the world. And that, my friends, is how you sow on the surface on a soil block. And notice that I'm only putting 1 seed per block. There is such a high rate of germination with soil blocks that we never double seed as some folks do. We've just never found that need because we have such a high rate of germination. And I'm going to do one more. And literally, that is how you sow tiny seeds right on the surface of the blocks. Now, let's just pretend we're on a different tray. And now, because we plant lots and lots of zinnias, right? And so people are sometimes surprised that we use these small blocks. But in fact, if you start, I mean, we have planted literally tens of thousands of zinnias from this block. They will grow in this block until they go to the garden, as I mentioned earlier, when they're like 2 to 3 weeks old. So I chose some of the zinnias that are actually coated, and that's something that people often ask us about. That they come to us coated, and that's just a clay coating, which in fact allows the seed companies that we buy from to count them more efficiently. And so this is how I sow zinnia seeds. You literally just push one of the pointy ends in. The tail is still, as you'll see here in a minute. I use the coated so it's just so much simpler to see it, right? And I'm pushing it down in. And I want you to see that you can still see the tail end of the zinnia sticking out, and that's okay. Zinnias like darkness to sprout, right? And so that's why they get pushed down. Marigolds do the same. Cosmos, we do the very same. And you simply just push it down into the block, and that does the job. There is no need to try to cover that little tail that's sticking out. So the Soil Block Maker Kit has everything you've seen me talk about here. It includes, let Let me just bring this up for a minute. Every time I adjust this arm, I'm afraid it's going to like literally just fall right off the set here. All right, so the Soil Block Maker Kit actually comes with the small blocker. It's a 15% savings buying all this stuff together in the kit. It comes with the Seed Starting Made Easy course, which will walk you step by step through soil blocking indoors to getting them out in the garden, as well as how you can direct sow out in the garden, plant in plug trays, and how to use the commercial soil blocker, the Swift blocker. It comes with your choice of either 3 packs of warm season tender annuals. These are customer favorites, or cool season hardy annuals. It's just your choice. It comes with the 5 trays, and each tray holds 3 sets of 20, as well as the seed pan, the plant markers that I use as tools, and the toothpick, and the kit, and this, as well as this bag of the ready-made mix, which will make about 600 of these small blocks. So this just really gets you set up to hit the ground running. It's $89.95, which is of over 15% savings versus actually, yes, thank you, buying them all separately, right? All right, so that is the Soil Block Maker Kit. Now, the rest of the story, right, for successful seed starting. So that's why we created last year, it's called the Seed Starting Expansion Kit. So we've offered for years, it's called the Complete Seed Starting Kit. That has everything that you could possibly need from beginning to end to start with soil blocking and to carry the seedlings to healthy status to be planted outside. So we made the expansion kit for those folks that may have purchased a seed starting kit at one time, or the Soil Block Maker Kit, and then they need the rest of the components, and that's what I want to walk you through. But first, I'm going to pull this up. So this is a part of the expansion kit. This little tabletop grow light. Let me just move this a little bit. This little tabletop grow light is, I believe, 24 inches long, and it's got a footprint of 12 inches. And this little grow light will support 4 trays of your 60, right? So that's 240 plants. This is some celosia that was just being born. This is about 9 days old. And there's 60 plants on there. And look at this. This is Gumphrena. Let's see. This was started March 26th. What is today? So that's 4, 5, 6. This is 7 days old. This is Audra White Gumphrena. And look at these little seedlings. Are they not amazing? And the high rate of germination, those are all a result of soil blocking and then giving them the rest of the story, which we're getting ready to look at. So why do you need a grow light? Plants grow, we want them to grow, but we want them to stay short and stocky and nice and green, right? And they get that by getting 16 to 18 hours of light a day. Unfortunately, if you put plants on your windowsill, there's not even 16 hours of daylight a day, even if they got bright, direct sunlight, right? And so grow lights, which is what I grow all of my seedlings under, are what give us that light, right? That 16 hours that they need to be really healthy plants. And the way that we do that, I'm going to bring this kit over here and I'm going to just show you some of the stuff as I'm talking about it. In this expansion kit is a grow light. Okay, it includes the grow light and it has a timer. And friends, you may think you're going to remember to turn it on and off, but it doesn't happen. I promise you, it doesn't happen. Our lights come on at 6 a.m. in the morning and they go off at 10 p.m. at night. That way our plants get a full dose of all the light that they need to grow into these beautiful, healthy transplants, right? So this is in the expansion kit and it has the timer, and this is a grounded timer. So the rest of the story, which, what did I do with those, the tray of the seeds that I
took them.
Oh, here they are. So another piece of, in the expansion kit of something that I use, when I learned to soil block through Elliot Coleman through almost 3 decades ago, he's the one that's taught me that using domes and plastic certainly works. I'm not saying don't do that. It's just very easy to introduce disease and issues if you don't monitor it really closely. And let me tell you, as a commercial flower farmer, we don't monitor much of anything that closely. I visit my grow room 1 time in the morning, and that led me to figure out a way to help retain moisture but allow air circulation. And we do that with wide weave burlap. And I'm going to show you how I use it. But this expansion kit comes with like a 3-foot square piece. And many people, especially that start lots of small trays, actually cut it down, and literally we just lay the burlap on top of the soil blocks. And when we water in the morning, we just pull it back. And that allows air circulation, but it traps some of the moisture. And because of most of the seeds that we sow here for flower and herb seeds, they're surface sown. So they're really predisposed to dry out. So the expansion kit comes with a 3-foot piece of burlap. So you have the grow light, the burlap, and the timer. And it also includes, if you've ever started seeds indoors, you know that it's pretty frequent that you actually get what are called fungus gnats. Those are little gnats that are present whenever there's moist soil. And so this kit includes the fungus gnat fighting kit. So there's 2 pieces to this. Fungus gnats are those little gnatty things that fly around, right? So there's 2 stages to them. There's the adults that are flying around that are laying the eggs on the moist soil and that's where the larva develops. These yellow sticky traps, which you can either hang or lay on a tray for them, they're attracted to the yellow and they land and are captured. That captures the adults. This is the mosquito bits, but in fact it's labeled for fungus gnat control. It's a BT. And I put these bits in my watering can every Wednesday. And what that does, during my normal watering, I actually put these in the night. When I finish watering on Tuesday, I refill my watering can and I dose this. It's 4 tablespoons to a gallon or less if you don't do a whole gallon of water like I do, and let it sit and steep overnight, and then I water with it the next morning. And that eliminates the developing larva that is in that wet soil. And prevention is the secret to fungus gnat control, y'all. Don't wait till you get them. So this is in the expansion kit. The other thing I do is I add fertilizer to my watering can every Monday. And we use the Neptune's Harvest seaweed fish, 1 tablespoon to a gallon. So this is 18 ounces, so it really lasts a long time. And so I just add this to my watering can, and everybody gets a dose of this on every Monday. That's in the grow room and then out on the carport hardening off. This fertilizer can also be used out in the garden for a foliar feed. What that simply means, for instance, in a small garden, you could mix this up according to directions in a watering can and then use a nozzle head on the can and sprinkle your foliage. You're putting the food on the actual foliage, or you can dump it on the soil, and that's called a soil drench once you've mixed it up. So the Neptune's Harvest, we've used it for years and absolutely love it. All right, so another really important piece of the step is a seedling heat mat, y'all. And let me tell you why this makes such a really big difference. So in general, most seeds germinate between 75 and 85 degrees, okay? And you're thinking right now, well, shoot, my house is 72. I should be fine. Friends, that 72 degrees at your house is air temperature. We're talking about soil temperature. And soil temperature, that mass of soil, is typically 15 to 20 degrees cooler than the air temperature. So let's just say your house is at 70. That means that mass of soil is classically about 55 degrees. And that is such a big frequent flyer reason that people can't get their seeds to germinate. So enter a seedling heat mat. And this has a built-in thermostat. that actually heats this up 15 to 20 degrees warmer than the air temperature. So it kind of solves that problem. When you use a seedling heat mat, it is one step in the process. Your seeds will germinate a little quicker and more uniform and just allow them to move on. So we place the trays on the seedling heat mat. And once 50% of the seeds show signs of life, that can be just cracking, y'all. You're not looking for a plant to jump up. Any signs of that they're developing, the heat mat has done its job. And once 50% are done, I take them off the heat, and that's when they move to the grow light, right? And so that's where they grow under the grow light until they're a couple inches tall, and then we move them outdoors to harden them off. And the course in the Soil Block Maker kit walks you through all of those steps, right? And then once we move them out to the garden, we often cover them. This is a lightweight row cover. This can be used with or without hoops. Does not come with hoops, but it's called a floating row cover because it is so light. You can, in fact, lay it right on top of plants. We use this often to keep varmints from getting our plants, rabbits and squirrels, and to block the wind that's blowing. So the expansion kit comes with the row cover, the heat mat, the 24-inch grow light, the timer, the fertilizer, the fungus gnat fighting kit, and this 3x3 piece of burlap. And so it is about, what did we say, over 10% off when you buy all this stuff in the kit. It's $177.95. Plus, there is additional shipping on this kit normally when you buy it over on our website, but it's capped at $9.95 here. So you're saving, it depends on where you live. We're in Virginia, but you could be saving $3 to $11 depending on where you actually live. So, and I will say that, you know, I don't know if you've bought plants lately, but you don't get many plants for a couple of $100 anymore. And this opens the doorway for you to start your own seeds. And friends, I want to say if you have had dismal experience doing it, that's exactly what led me to soil blocking. And here 27 years later, it's not that I'm a great seed starter. I just figured out the steps, and they're so simple. And this process and method really helps you to do it successfully and in a small space, which means a pantry or a spare bedroom or a laundry room. It just is a perfect fit. So, friends, it is time to wrap up now. And I want to just tell you a couple other little things about being here in the app. You can buy all of this stuff separately inside of our app. Almost all of our products, I believe, are in here. So you can find them all separately here in the app, even though I did not feature them individually. And over on our big website, thegardenersworkshop.com, you will find so many free resources, videos and blogs, and our podcast. And we actually have 2 podcasts. I host Field and Garden, and then, of course, I host Seed Talk. Elaine and I host that, which is another podcast. And I'm just thrilled if you dropped in here for the first time tonight, and we will be happy to give you a hand if you want to start seeds and grow beautiful flowers and even vegetables. And remember, meet us back here. We have a show on Fridays at 12 noon, and this week's theme on the Friday show is succession planting sunflowers. So if you're not going to stick around for the Q&A, then thank you so much for joining us, and I'm happy to meet you if it's our first time together. So, friends, let's hit the Q&A and see what kind of questions we have here. Okay, so my first question is, with a flat tray, I found my soil was washing away. Did I not put enough water at the beginning? So, really with soil blocking, that's one of the things that I really find where if you use a mix that has been deemed a blocking mix or made your own, and Susie's gonna bring us a watering can, That is the start, is what are you making it out of? And oftentimes those really fluffy seed starting mixes or just potting soils that folks try to use, they literally can just turn into mush once they get moist. But also it's the way you actually water them. So one of the things, and I didn't do a very good job of this, one of the things I try to do when I'm placing my blocks on a tray of any size is to put all the blocks over to one side of the tray to leave a larger well, and using a gentle pour watering can, which you'll find this in the app. And I don't pour right on the blocks. I literally usually pour up against the side of the tray, so that little gentle stream even isn't really affecting them. And once your soil blocks actually get roots in them, they aren't nearly as fragile as they are at this actual stage. So hopefully that'll help you. Really, it's gentle watering and using the proper blocking mix. What do you do if you have algae growing on your blocks? Is it a lost cause? No, it is not a lost cause. In my experience, the algae does not cause harm to your actual seedlings. But what causes the algae is what causes harm, and that is constant moisture in your trays. So here's what you're trying to achieve wherever you're growing seedlings, is you want to water first thing in the morning. It should always be first thing in the morning. So as your plants or your trays go through the day under grow lights, as the day goes on, they're getting drier, and then by the evening at night, they're getting pretty dry. And then the lights go off and they rest all night, right? Well, they're not just resting. That dry soil is getting a big old dose of oxygen to the roots that are developing down there. And the only way for algae to actually develop and survive is constant moisture. So that is a real frequent flyer problem, because I understand it's very different than watering trays that have drainage holes in it. So here's the things that I would recommend that you do. First off, check your air temperature of where it is that you're growing your seedlings. And the first and easiest thing to do is to warm it up. Our grow room for the warm season is typically about 75 to 85 degrees. What does that do? It grows great plants and it dries the soil out pretty quick. And that's what we want. So I would warm it up. And usually once you get your soil to dry out during a 24-hour cycle, the algae will just dissipate. And I don't think it's a lost cause at all. I've grown much algae and mold on blocks before. And it's just not a problem. So give that a try. Do you ever pre-make the soil blocks to have them ready when you need to sow at different times, or always make them on the spot as needed? And that is a really great question. We actually explored years ago making blocks in a tray like this, drying them, and then vacuum packing them to sell to people that didn't want to buy the tool. And it just wasn't nearly as efficient. So when they really dry out, it's kind of difficult to rehydrate them. First off, they want to float. So you have to weight them down with something. And that's all just a big old pain in the neck. So I would say as a practice, I would not do that. Sometimes stuff just gets dried out and you have to do it that way, right? I mean, you got seeds sown in them. So we, like Bobo's method here, with the way that she starts seeds, is she makes like three, this morning I think she made 7 trays. That's the trays that hold 100. She made 7 trays, and then she sits down and sews them. And then after lunch, she makes more trays. It doesn't have to be that immediate. She could have made them all in the morning, but she finds that it just gives her different body motions. So hopefully that helps. But yeah, we kind of make them as we actually need them. It's far easier to sow seeds into really moist blocks than not moist. Bloom time. If a packet says 60 days to bloom, is that from the time you plant in the soil seed block or from the time it's actually transplanted in the ground? From when you read on a seed packet, 60 days or 90 days or whatever it is, that is from seeding, wherever you seed it, in a block, in a packet, in a soil cell pack, or out in the garden. It is 60 days from the day you plant a seed until when it's expected to bloom, when it gets all of its conditions met. So no, it has nothing to do with planting the plant. That is from when the seed starts it to develop and be in life. Is it true that pelleted seeds don't stay viable very long, that new seeds are needed every year? Yes. And so the pelleting that happens is for several different reasons. People that sow lots of seeds and use vacuum seeders, commercial growers, that coating, which is a clay product, it's not a treatment of any kind, allows them to do that in a much more efficient way. We don't coat them, they come to us coated. And in fact, we recommend that people use them within the year. And, you know, you can store seeds properly and get longer life out of them. But here on our farm, our rule is kind of pretty much that we I actually sow the same seeds that you buy from us on my farm here. We literally send a list to the warehouse. They bring back the seed packets that look just like what you buy, and we sow them. And that's just a double checking system, right? But what I've learned, because I bought bulk seed for 2 decades, right? Two and a half decades probably, where we stored seeds. And I can't tell you how much more efficient, how much better our germination is when we start with fresh seeds every year. So yes, every year you should start with fresh seeds. You can store seeds to be viable, but that's more than what most people are interested in time to do. Do y'all prefer peat moss or cocoa coir in your recipe? You can use either. And so folks that don't like to use peat moss is because it's a sustainable issue, but I would beg to pardon, I'm sure this will cause something, that if you investigate cocoa coir, you'll find that it's just as unsustainable as peat moss is. And we use such a small amount of it for what we do. So both will work. I personally prefer peat moss. And I mean, literally, we use less than half of a bale in a year when we're making our own blocking mix. So that's just what we've learned. My seedlings seem to get leggy. I move them to light as soon as they pop up, and they keep the light very close to the seedlings, but they don't get as full as yours. Any tips? So I would sometimes, we used to be on the practice that we would change our light bulbs every single year, whether they're burnt out or not, to have the brightest light. But typically, I don't know what kind of light you have, but sometimes it's perhaps too many plants for the width of your actual beam, because in fact many of the new lights are very different than the old just fluorescent lights. Many of these, if you get them higher, they cast a wider footprint, and sometimes those are really bright, and it's the quality of the light that you have potentially. So I would really try to figure out, is it the whole thing? Is it all the plants? Or is it the ones on the edge? And then if it is just the ones on the edge, it's not got a broad enough footprint. And then consider changing the light bulbs maybe. So friends, this has been fun. Let us know what you think about this show. You can go to social and hit me on one of my posts and say you enjoy it in the evening or you don't. We would just love to hear more about it. And thank you so much for joining us. See you Friday on the show. And can't wait to hook up again. So we just love growing flowers. And we love helping you to do it. All right, friends.